What's up? Chiprigo here, back to my Reading Africa Talent series, and we are camping in Liberia this time, the very first African country to gain independence or to declare sovereignty. It's debatable. Some say it's Ghana, but it's Liberia, actually. So, I mean, I guess it was befitting for me to move from Ghana to Liberia. If you've seen my previous video, you know that I'm letting the books decide what country I go to, and his own wife had a Liberian character, so it only seemed right that I would move to Liberia after Ghana. So I don't know so much about Liberia. One of the things that I found quite interesting when I was looking for books was that Liberia was actually founded by freed American slaves. Well, obviously, founded is not. I guess founded is the word. There were people there already, obviously, but the structure of what we now call governments or republics or whatever, republics, was made by freed African slaves on the pretext or the idea that they had more opportunities to thrive and live more fulfilling lives if they were sent back home, which is obviously Liberia being one of the countries. Anyways, so while I'm doing my research, before we go into the book that I actually picked for Liberia, I'm gonna share some of the books that I found quite interesting that I thought I could possibly read someday in the future and share in case anybody else wants to pick another book from Liberia. So the first book would be Boy Interrupted by Sarah Malimano. That one was it's a love story. It was tempting, but not that tempting because I like to read love stories in phases, and the Ghana one was already a love story, so I said let's try something else. And then the other one was Murder in the Cassava Patch by Bitey Moore. That one's crime fiction. It's I think centered off of a young man who's supposed to get married, and then his fiancée dies and he's a suspect, and I think there's some spiritualism or whatever involved around that. I haven't read it, but it seemed quite interesting as well. And then the third one also was a crime fiction. This one was the Lazarus Effect by I think H.J. Golakai, also centering around a young woman who disappears. And it's again crime fiction, and then I had a non-fiction that also caught my eye. This Child Would Be Great, and I really wanted to read this one. It took everything in me not to read it. This Child Would Be Great is a bio of Sir Ellen Johnson, Ellen Johnson, I think. She's the first female African president ever, and so it's just a bio, I guess, telling us her story and how she got there, memoir rather. So what's the difference, bio and memoir? I should Google that. But yeah, so that was that. But I ended up settling with She Would Be King by Wayetumo. So She Would Be King is a magical reimagination of the origins of Liberia. Honestly, it feels like an origin story. It feels like a superhero origin story, because at the end I was just like yes, kind of like how you felt when the Avengers did their Avengers Assemble scene. That's how I felt when I got to certain aspects or parts of the book. I was just like, oh my gosh, you go girls or guys. Yeah, so the story is told from the perspective of what I would say, like some sort of very good mother. That's what I would call her, I guess. But she's portrayed as the wind, and she is overseeing these characters. And the book is split into two. So you have the first part, which kind of introduces the three characters, their individual stories, and then the second part, where the stories kind of merge and they become one of some kind. So we have, of the three characters, we have Bessa, who is immortal. She cannot die. She is born in a day that is considered a cursed day. So she's known as a witch in her village, and she's ostracized and just cast away in some hut, where she doesn't get to interact with people. She's got like really bright red hair and very dark skin, so it even just makes it worse for her. She's like, she looks so different from us, she must be a witch. And so you see her story, in a sense, from her birth. Obviously starts from her birth, and she makes a connection with one of the young men in the village when she was much younger. I think she was 9 or 10. And they kind of have like some type of thing. They kind of like each other or something. But again, she can't mingle with people, so her relationship with him is a bit just peeping on the window, really cute, innocent type of attraction. But she falls in love with him, obviously. So that just complicates a whole bunch of story. But remember, Bessa can't die, so you kind of watch her story unfold as she's she's bitten by a poisonous snake. She's left to starve to death, but she just doesn't die because Bessa cannot die. And then we move now to a second character, June Day. June Day is the child of a dead woman and a ghost, I guess. A ghost, I don't know. A ghost June. Yeah, the woman is dead, but she's not dead. And another slave, a living slave, actually human being. And his birth under very supernatural weird slave. So this is actually on the plantation, I think in Chicago. I don't know why I thought it was going to be in Chicago, but it's on the plantation in the US. This spirit somehow gets pregnant she's dead, she's a spirit, she gets pregnant with a physical baby who's born with another man who's actually a human being. So June Day is actually real, even though his mother is dead. There's a spirit, and he grows up on this plantation, and he's got super strength, and he cannot. His skin is like, I don't know, like they try to shoot him, bullets don't go through. He tried to beat him, because obviously he's a slave on the plantation. Beat him, no stripes, nothing. Like, dude can't feel no pain. He's a G like that. He's a big boy also. He feels like he's a bit of a giant. He's a very dark, huge boy. Maybe like these guys that play rugby. That's sort of how I imagined him in my head anyways. And you see him grow up on this plantation, obviously knowing the circumstance of his birth and how he eventually ends up leaving that particular plantation. Is quite really sad, really, really sad. But I don't want to give away spoilers on that one. And then we have a third character who is Norman Aragon. Is it Norman Aragon? Yes, Norman Aragon. I think it's Norman Aragon. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Norman Aragon is invisible. That's pretty much it. He can disappear and reappear at will whenever he thinks. So we also get his story about how his mother is on some type of island. I think I just thought it was like somewhere like in the Jamaicas or something, the Caribbean or something like that. And this white researcher comes into that place to try and find to research her people. And she eventually gets pregnant for him. She can disappear and reappear, obviously. So she ends up getting pregnant for this British researcher and ends up having Norman Aragon, so he's biracial, who ends up obviously getting his mother's superpowers. And long story short, Bessa is in Africa. Obviously, we have June Day who's in the US, and Norman Aragon who's on some type of island in the mountains. These three characters somehow end up finding each other, meeting in some shape or form. You see them come into each other's lives and see them find their full potential as they explore these particular powers of theirs and how that relates to Liberia itself. You kind of jump from each character to another. The three characters, in a sense, end up using their individual powers that come together to fight for their people, to fight for themselves as well. It was beautiful to see them come together and just be this strong force together. It was amazing. There's another particular character, Charlotte Emerson, that is, I think, the particular character that brings all three of these people together. I think she, in a sense, carries these three characters and how she weaves their lives back together. So Charlotte Emerson was one of my favorites. It has a lot of trigger warnings. I think it needs a lot of trigger warnings rather. There are lots of scenes that are just hard. They're painful. Especially if you are, abuse is hard for you to process and read through. Rejection. You will need to take a moment with this book. It's also quite slow paced, and it took me a while to really, really get connected to all three characters. I think they just feel a bit too separate. I can't explain it, but I would actually read a sequel because I don't, not that it leaves you on a cliffhanger, but it didn't give me closure. It felt like just when I was finally jumping into the story and be like, yes, these are my people. I have connected with them. I am ready to take this journey with them. The book ends. So it's just like, okay. And then, but like I said, it's an origin story, and it feels like a superhero origin story, honestly, if you ask me. So I guess it makes sense that the story would end in a place where it's not necessarily ended, but it's ended. It would be nice if she did a sequel. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. It doesn't necessarily warrant for one, but there's material there that would actually make a sequel really good. So that's She Would Be King by Waya Tumo. I don't think it's a book for everyone. I think even for me, it took me a while to really be like, okay, I think I like it. I think I rated it a 3 out of 5. But just before doing this review, I was going through my notes of it, and I'm like, okay, maybe maybe I actually did like it a lot more than this. But that's She Would Be King by Yetumo. Thanks for watching. Bye.